Growing up, the only fear I really had was of thunderstorms. And being raised in San Diego, we didn't have many thunderstorms, thank goodness. But other than that, I was always out playing till the street lights came on.
She was usually just with older siblings. She was just on the go all the time. She was with them, do anything they do. So I never did realize she had any fears until it came for her to go from X to Y in the air.
My phobia of flying started, I think I was about 18 or 19, and we were returning on a flight home from Minnesota. We had to land in Las Vegas, and there was a lot of turbulence, and I panicked, and I was sitting next to my sister-in-law, and I was just clutching her arm, and I ended up leaving bruises on her arm. I remember, the cold sweat, the heart beating fast, just the sense of panic, where you have butterflies and almost feel faint. I didn't know if I was gonna die or not. All I could do is think, the plane's shaking, we're gonna crash, I have to get off this plane, and I couldn't. It seemed to go on and on and on, and I remember when we landed in Las Vegas, I wanted to just rent a car and drive back to San Diego instead of having to fly. Flying took on a whole new meaning, and I didn't ever want to fly again.
Loretta's frightening experience turned into an obsessive worry, consuming much of her life.
If there is a plane crash, I read everything about it in the paper, online, watch the news footage, want to know what was said in the black box, what the cause was, and I just wonder what was going on in those people's minds. I think about that stuff a lot. And it does trigger dreams. A friend of mine gave me this book to use as my dream journal, but it ended up becoming my nightmare journal. I would have a dream of a plane crashing and write about it. I started crying uncontrollably. I could barely get out the words about the accident. I saw the newspaper, and it already had the crash in it. It showed pictures of the survivors still strapped in their seats. For me to be able to envision it so clearly definitely made it more of a reality for me. I would start thinking, what if, what if? The neighborhood over here is where my parents live, where I grew up, and they live probably about 10 minutes from the airport, and I'd be able to watch the planes landing in the distance.
She'd sit here and just watch them sometimes for hours.
If I see one fly at a different angle, I have to watch that plane and make sure it's not smoking. I have to make sure it doesn't take a sudden turn, and I know it's just in a holding pattern or something, but, I still think, oh, something's wrong. Is that plane gonna crash?
Most of the phobic people I've worked with have the issue of control. Either they have fear of losing control, or they want more control of the situation. Fear of the unknown is a major part of most phobias, and it can even be a little bit obsessive-compulsive.
When Loretta had to travel, she turned to alcohol to cope with her escalating fear.
I would just have to self-medicate myself to get on the plane. I would have to have a couple beers at home. This is the way that my dad would take me to the airport when I would fly someplace. On my way to the airport, I'd have a couple tall cans, and once I got to the airport, I would go to the bar and have a beer, and the bartender would usually give me a shot. and then I'd proceed to drink on the plane. Then I would take Valium or Xanax and drink. So by the time I got on the plane, you know, I was just like, all right, here we go. You know, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen.
To explain to her, you know, safest thing, it's safer than driving a car. Look at the cars. You got millions of cars on a highway and maybe 1,000 airplanes in the air. She never believed me or just couldn't believe me, I guess.
I definitely get a lot of reassurance. A lot of people, you know, stating the facts. Oh, you know, it's so much safer to, you know, fly than drive. Well, I'm driving. I'm in control. You know, there's a 50-50 chance that I'll be able to correct something, but when I'm on the plane, I'm powerless. When I would be waiting for them to call my seat number to board, it would just be the panic coming on. I'd start going through irrational thoughts in my head, and then the ritual would start. I'd have to touch the outside of the plane and say a quick prayer before I got on board and introduce myself to the captain and crew as a fearful flyer and go to my seat and just pray for the best. And then start ordering the drinks.
35-year-old Loretta Emery has struggled with her fear of flying for her entire adult life. She's desperate to shake her phobia, but doesn't know how.
At first, I feel silly for thinking and reacting the way I do about flying and when flying. But when I'm up there, it's so real and it's so valid. I would love to be able to go to the airport and know that I'm going to be taking a flight somewhere I haven't been before and be excited about the trip instead of anxious and panicked and almost sick to my stomach with dread. This is Mission Trails Regional Park. Just how beautiful everything, and just, you know, it reminds me how big of a world it is and how much I am missing out on. And, you know, if I'm super stressed out, I'll come out here. If it was more than 2.5 years ago, and if I got stressed, first thing I would do is go buy a six-pack or a case or go to the bar. And this is definitely my healthy alternative. My fear of flying, I would be able to tolerate it by self-medicating, but I quit drinking 2 years ago, and I'm afraid for my next trip because, you know, I'll have to go through everything.
Although she doesn't drink at all anymore, that phobia is still there. That I'm scared if I don't have a drink, if I don't have a pill, I'm not going to be able to get on that airplane.
If I were able to conquer this phobia, I would be able to find a job where I could travel. I would, you know, be able to consider relocating if I wanted to. I would be able to travel overseas for work. Right now, none of it's an option. I have a Priceline voucher that I can use, and I've decided that I'm going to go to New York City.
Loretta is taking action to conquer her fear of flying in time for her trip.
Today, I'm going to be doing a hypnotherapy session, which is something I've never done, and I'm really hoping that it works.
Hypnotherapy is the practice of using hypnosis to alter the subconscious mind. It can eradicate the feeling and give you more reason as to why this is just irrational behavior. And usually it happens in conjunction with cognitive reality.
Hi, I'm Loretta.
Hi, Loretta. I'm Jacques Legier. How are you?
It's nice to meet you.
Good. Have a seat right here, please. Eyelids will get heavier and heavier. And the breathing will get more and more rapid, more and more deeper. You'll start to sense your breathing more. Now I want you to imagine yourself on a plane. Imagine the plane taxiing down the runway. You're on the plane, Loretta. You're calm and peaceful. And as the plane takes off, you breathe and you rub your first fingers together, your thumb and fingers on both hands. Rub them together, Loretta, giving you a sense of peace, calmness. And anytime you feel any kind of angst or anxiety, that's what you do. I think that she'll have no problem flying. Now her subconscious knows that flying is safe. We've dealt with it, and that suggestion has been placed there that it will be a calm, peaceful flight. So now she's more receptive to that idea than she may have been in the past.
I did get a lot out of it. I did learn some good coping tools for my trip, doing relaxation techniques, envisioning each step of the process, and controlling my breathing, and to rub my fingers and thumbs together when I start getting panicky or anxious. So hopefully it'll be a new and improved Loretta the Flyer.